And I mean, I guess I have to say kind of this is it. So thanks everybody for coming, and I'm going to hand things over to
Thank you, Rob.
Jamie for our last.
He needed a ring of invisibility for that. Hey! Hooray! Hooray! Okay. So this is Real American Heroes, and I think we can include Bob in that now. I'm Jamie Wilson. I'm the moderator. I'm Jamie Wilson, owner and publishers of Conservatarian Press, and I started the group that became the core of the CLFA, if y'all are familiar. Helped start Liberty Island Media, and I am now a columnist at PJ Media as well. Let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Dan Gainor. I've been writing science fiction and fantasy for a little over a decade. I wrote a short story about cloning the founding fathers. I'm working on a book in the Fey Wars universe, refighting the Battle of Newmarket, and I'm just finished, probably 50 hours or more of interviewing Marines for a Portal fantasy that I'm working on.
I'm Blaine Pardoe. The reason I was excited about this is I've written 3 biographies about Americans, heroes. I think one of them more of a cad than a hero, but so for me this was but I tend to write my biographies about World War I people. So
my name is Eric Hamilton, and I write a series of what I would call weird presidential alternate histories. So they star U.S. presidents in weird sci-fi alternate history kind of scenarios, and so that's what I do.
And I'm Fred Heimbach. My pen name is Frederick Garrow Heimbach, and I am, along with Eric here, one half of the microgenre, which is the weird, satirical, and extremely non-rigorous alternate history, focusing on American presidents. So yeah, it's Eric and I. None of you are invited to join this club. Arguably 2 is too many. So Eric and I are going to be meeting out back at the hotel afterwards.
Sorry, while we were talking, Blaine wrote another book in your world.
yeah, Donald Trump, Space Marine. It's already on the list.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Dropping in from orbit, folks. They're never going to believe how fast we fall from orbit. They said it couldn't be done.
Those orcs never stood a chance. They were terrorist orcs. They deserve to die.
Wow. Hey, that was a little too good.
Okay.
All right, so let's get started here. This is funny, but it's also pretty serious. And I just want to preface it by saying this is a really personal topic to me, because my brother, Sergeant Robert Proctor, is a real American hero. In Afghanistan, he was leading a patrol, and his unit came under fire when they encountered an unexpected Taliban meeting up in the hillside. Of course, they were in the valley. So the the Taliban guys took out their front vehicle and their back vehicle, which was their tactic, and pinned them down the valley for an entire afternoon. So they're down there just taking heavy fire. They got on the 50 cals, they fired back. My brother called in air support, and after a while, it took a bit, a plane came through and took them all out, 42 Taliban, no American casualties whatsoever, and he came home with a Bronze Star for Valor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm very proud of my baby brother. Yeah. So let's get started. Let's first define an American hero. What do you think of when you think of a real American hero? What qualities and how do they differ from other protagonists?
Well, I mean, I think when you think of American heroes, a lot of times what I try to think of are ordinary people. Mm-hmm. Ordinary people put in extraordinary situations. In the Fey Wars novel I'm working on, it's retired military or a few members of the National Guard unit that were not wiped out during the initial invasion. These are people who rise to the fore. Those who heard my presentation, the little reading of the short story, it's just an ordinary guy who joined the National Guard because he didn't have money for food, and yet he's a hero. So my dad was a battalion chief in the fire department. I watched my dad's whole career. My first memory of my father is saving somebody's life. Literally, it was at fire ground. He shoved me in the arms of somebody. He and another guy go running and grab a firefighter who was already injured as a chimney tried to fall on him. So to me, the people like that, whether they're military or civilian, those are the heroes that we're talking about.
I always fall back on, it's hard for me to define what are the qualities of an American hero, but I look at some of these guys. I wrote a biography about Frank Luke Jr. Has anybody ever heard of Luke Air Force Base? Okay, big Air Force Base out in Arizona. Frank Luke was, for a while, the greatest American ace in World War I. His death is how you ended up with Eddie Rickenbacker being the ace of aces. And for 20 days, in 20 days on the front, he became the ace of aces. He was born in Arizona to a Western family. He was a rowdy, rambunctious person. He was literally, when Billy Mitchell showed up, his specialty was blowing up German aviation balloons. When Billy Mitchell showed up, he said, we're going to go blow up that balloon, that balloon, that balloon. It was like Babe Ruth calling the shots. And they literally went out and blew up those balloons. He lost both of his wingmen, first Joe Werner and then Ivan. He then was finally shot down. And when he was shot down, depending on the version of the story you hear, Luke climbed out of his Spad with a pistol and engaged a squad of German troops on the ground who finally killed him. You know, I look at that and say that is a truly American story. There's no British equivalent in the war, and I haven't come across a German equivalent of it in the war. But that's the kind of person that person was. And I look at those characteristics. They're hard for me to define the tangible elements. But some of it's the bravery, some of it's the audacity, some of it's that bit of Western swagger that we all deeply have or want to hold on to that kind of makes somebody a hero.
Yeah, so when I was thinking about this, and hopefully I'm not stepping on a future question, but I tend to think that these qualities that you're talking about are most embodied in someone like George Washington. Like George Washington, in a sense, defined what it meant to be an American hero and set that example that in some ways, I think all Americans that come after are at least judged by, or you could compare them to, like the things that you're talking about.
And he set that example even before the Revolutionary War.
Right.
When he was fighting with Braddock, fighting
yeah,
the Indians.
Quintessentially American even before the United States was a thing, right? And that coming from nothing, bravery, audacity, but I think also a certain kind of humility as well, that giving up power and doing things for the benefit of the community. I can't think of, I think that maybe all American heroes go all the way back to him, and you could make an argument that it's George Washington that all other American heroes spring from. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I really think the underdog or the ordinary guy who's called upon, that's a key thing. I don't know why, but when we started emailing one another about the topics of this panel, the first hero that came to my mind was American hero was John Henry. And I put out a reply, now this is a classic American hero. And then I thought, now is that really, does he fit the archetype because of the tragic ending? And I think American heroes we kind of don't do tragedies as so much in America because of the American optimism and the whole history of the frontier, which gives us gave us a sense of limitless possibilities, and that ordinary people can go out and do anything. And if you were here last night for the music, the importance of space being the continuation of the American West, I think is key. We absolutely need to be sending American heroes to Mars and other destinations, planting an American flag. Sorry, Canadians. But you go out, and it'd be fascinating to see other nations get in the race, have a little competition, and make that happen is what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next. When you guys are drawing from history, how much do you stay true to what actually happened as opposed to making stuff up?
This is where my career gets in the way of sanity. Years as journalist, to me, as much as you can get detail correct, whether it's a building and a street. I mean, I'm looking at Stanton, Virginia. I've got, people who are on a particular street. They're going to the next street over. I've got to have that street accurate to me, because when you get little things wrong like that, people who know care. There's always lines of departure. That's alternate history. That's the idea. But up to that, you should still be true to it as much as possible. At least that's my view.
Well, in terms of characters and being accurate, I try to pull the core elements that appeal to an American. So one of my characters in the 10-year series is Braxton Knox. He has lost his family. He is not a Navy SEAL. He's not a Ranger. He was a clerk in the military. The most action he saw was he was in a porta-john when the base got shot up. He was not a hero until he lost his family, and then he became a vigilante to set those things right. And that vigilante aspect is something that goes back to the Western elements, where men took justice into their own hands. And I spent a lot of time looking at Zane Grey's and other Western books, because that was a key element to this character. He is an ongoing vigilante character. And as such, I really wanted to tap, where did vigilantism come from? Well, if you watch a Western, it's all about men getting their own justice. That's what they're about, for the most part. And to me, that's where I tapped into that.
This might be, I tend to, I write alternate history with like a sci-fi tinge, and so sometimes, even with like all the time travel or ghosts or whatever I'm writing about, I spend an inordinate amount of time doing research and historical research. This is what Dan was talking about. Like, even if like details that only matter to me to feel like I'm getting the place right, but I also think that the interesting stories are the ones, or what people think when they read my books. They think that I made up. Those are actually the real things. And the time travel is actually not as audacious as some of the other things that happen. Like, I think Mark Twain said something about fiction has to be believable. And so, but it also in terms of character, what I tend to do is I try to find like a few core characteristics of the person that I'm writing about, and I don't try to get too consumed with trying to display them as a fully realized human being, partly because I'm going to be having some fun with the character and differentiate them from the historical person. But I think also finding the few characteristics, like almost like a caricature, will helps define the person, but then also allows me enough freedom to play with them and move them around. So I think I just try to find like a few like key parts and stick to those.
Yeah, I have to confess, as I get older, I am a little more self-conscious or self-aware, and I put a lot of satire into my fiction. And I'm thinking more these days about what am I really doing when I'm writing about Ronald Reagan falling asleep in a cabinet meeting, not because he's, in the early stages of Alzheimer's, which is what people assume, but actually because he's been spending his nights flying around in an Iron Man suit, battling a heavy metal band that's forming in South Dakota near, et cetera, et cetera. But am I making fun of him? Am I creating an opportunity? Are people not seeing the intense admiration and affection that I have for Ronald Reagan? Or are they, does it look like I'm just trying to tear him down, make fun of him? I guess I need, that is something I worry about. But we do have to be honest about our heroes. A little bit of honesty is good, but a little bit of airbrushing is you can't escape the need to create a narrative. That we're all in the narrative business. So I don't have an answer for that, but I do think about that tension all the time.
Let me follow up on the vigilante thing, because that was interesting. I think vigilantes and superheroes are quintessentially American heroes, at least by their origin, all the way back to Zorro and Batman. What do you guys think about that?
Although I'm not the person who's written on, let me start with Blaine on this one.
Sure.
To me, the vigilante story is something that's core to America.
Mm-hmm.
We all watch a Clint Eastwood movie, and it's vigilanteism. You're watching someone getting justice, and the justice side is the part that makes the vigilante. Otherwise, they're just a serial killer. They're not doing it just randomly. They are doing it for purpose and intent, and there's thought behind it, and that's what makes it. And you look at our rich culture of Westerns, it's very much a vigilante story that plays out, and I think it resonates with a lot of people. And I think it goes beyond, it doesn't just resonate with Americans, it resonates far beyond the Americans' scope of this. People around the world appreciate someone who seeks justice and sets things right. That makes us feel good. Now, is that also core to the superhero?
Right.
Oh yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. The superhero is someone who seeks justice. And I think when you guys did a panel earlier on superheroes, and that was part of it, is they've got to be, you could have all the power, but if you don't use it for the right purposes, you're just a bad guy. And that's why when we watch something like The Watchmen, we don't enjoy it as much, because the heroes aren't heroes at all. They're all so hopelessly flawed in every way, shape, and form, we don't enjoy it as much. And that's why we want to see our heroes be bold. We want to see them succeed. So anyway,
Not to mention,
I think that goes to the founding of the United States. You're talking about justice, and I think justice also seeking justice against a corrupt system, which you can go back to the Revolution, and that's how Thomas Jefferson framed the Declaration of Independence.
or you could turn on Fox News today.
Well, and I was
because-
going to say, yeah, even now, even the system that we have set up now, there's still a sense in which systems are not capable of meting out the justice that's needed. And so that, I think that vigilant, like what you're talking about with vigilantism, kind of like speaks to the American ethos of wanting justice and wanting and accomplishing it despite the system that's not meting out the justice that's deserved.
You know, and you make a very valid point, because how many of us have seen what's been going on in the UK right now?
Oh, God.
And we're appalled by it. I just heard you say, oh, God.
Yeah.
We're all appalled by it. And it's because of who we are
Yeah.
as Americans. It's built into our thinking. We see something like that where it's like you're waving the flag and you're going to be arrested. You're going to yell at a little girl who's protecting her sister from rapists. You know, you're going to arrest her. What the hell is going on? So when we see injustice, it has a visceral reaction
Yeah.
to the Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a debate over whether the Bill of Rights should be included in the Constitution, because if you start saying you can't do this, and then you'll create you'll forget the people will come up with the exceptions, and if you over codify it, you might create loopholes. But I feel like now maybe the Bill of Rights has been vindicated, because that the written word has implanted a mentality or reinforced an existing mentality. And where are the antibodies in the UK? They shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I think Americans, we're individualistic. You used a phrase when you first spoke about set things right. Anybody seen Outlaw Josie Wales? His son was murdered, his wife was raped and murdered, his farm was burned, he's waiting there, and then the militia, because this is pre-Civil War, shows up, and he says, oh, the Redlegs did this. You'll find them up Kansas way, and we're going up and set things right. And that's the whole idea of vigilante. That's whether it's Batman or Superman or Clint Eastwood, and that is a quintessential American idea and ideal, that we see a wrong. Much of the world, you look, wrong things happening, you see people standing there and staring, and you see in America, you see somebody whip out their concealed carry weapon and get involved. You see people fighting, and I think very clearly we were one election away of even that being taken away from us, where, you know, we have a very pro-victim mentality on the left, yet ordinary Americans look at that horrific murder that just happened, that poor girl riding in the subway car, and we want to set things right, and that is the essence.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to something a little different. Heroism often means sacrifice. How do you portray courage and selflessness without sliding into cliche or propaganda?
Let's start with you guys.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I do better reacting.
Okay. Well, I think, and when you write about people, whether it's people facing some sort of horrible invasion or just some sort of conventional thing, I wrote about firefighters not too long ago facing a demon. I think the most basic thing is you're risking your life. That's that always part of the equation. Whether it's Clint Eastwood riding up and fighting an entire group of people who've just kidnapped people in Outlaw Josie Wales, or whether it's Batman who basically doesn't carry a gun. Yes, he's got tons of little toys and trinkets and stuff, but he's not conventionally armed in sort of the American mindset. So you're always putting your life on the line.
Yeah.
And that goes whether you're fighting somebody or fighting fires or fighting floods or whatever. So I think that's a lot of it right there.
To me, the sacrifices have to be honored. And they aren't necessarily your main character sacrificing something. I had one of my characters, he was a tanker, and his gunner got killed. And he accompanied the body back home. Mm-hmm. And that was a big portion of the book, really, is him taking his brother, essentially, home. Because if you know tankers, they are really tight. They think in one mind in many respects. And it's that respect that he had to take that body home. It's, you honor your sacrifices.
Yeah.
I think, going on with what Dan and Blaine said, that the concept of facing one's own death, I think, is ultimately, and then choosing to do the thing that you ought to do, even if it means your death. That gets, we have the saying, give me liberty or give me death,
Yeah.
right? And it's not just death for your, well, I think the spirit in which that was said is liberty for your countrymen, right? It's doing something that's bigger than you and being willing to sacrifice and give up yourself for others in order that they might live a free life and the life that they choose, as opposed to some kind of slavish life where you're not really you're more focused on your own safety rather than actually living.
And I think also in America, we generally think, our heroism, we typically think about fighting back about things, but I think there also is the sort of traditional religious, saintly definition of, resistance, but not necessarily fighting, but be willing to die for your faith. And I think that's also important.
Well, I'm just thinking honoring the sacrifice, the very moving ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknowns
Gosh.
at Arlington Cemetery, which, if you haven't witnessed that, you really should. That's its own kind of sacrifice, because you're taking these elite soldiers who are assuming a strict discipline, and for what, there's this zero practical, that is the most useless thing, to have those fine men just marching back and forth in front of those slabs. And I think that kind of extravagant display is very powerful, and it would be wrong. Any military that does not have those kinds of rituals they're not going to earn the loyalty of their men.
You actually hit a good point. It's rituals and traditions. And I think that's part of what makes an American hero too.
You're right.
We have American rituals. We have American traditions. Thanksgiving is a day you gather with your family, whether you love them or not. You gather with your family, you stuff yourself, you watch a football game, and you get to fall asleep on the sofa if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
It is a ritual. And when somebody tries to take away those rituals, they're literally taking away part of our memory, part of our culture, and part of who we are as Americans.
Part of our soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are the type of person who needs to insert politics into Thanksgiving, you are taking that away in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, I lost my place. Well, you just hit on my next topic. I was going to talk about the symbolism of America, but not so much as the way we see ourselves, but the way the rest of the world sees us.
Well, we can do that.
Yeah,
we can do
let's
more.
go down there.
Yeah,
Let's talk
let's
about
do
the
that.
bald eagle, and of course, wasn't it Benjamin Franklin who famously thought a
turkey.
turkey
The
would be?
turkey, right?
Well, turkeys are for eating on Thanksgiving. That is the American role for a turkey, right?
There you go.
Yeah, and of course, lots of European aristocrats have eagles as their mascots, but yeah, the bald eagle, there's something fierce and individual and competent, the predator who can, master his territory. I think the eagle works great.
There's
as an
a
American
bald eagle that dives into the lake behind my house
Oh,
to
that's-
fish, and it is the most astounding thing you will ever see.
They've come back to Michigan now. I saw one in the wild
Yeah,
a couple hours south of here. Yeah.
nice.
But it's not just, I mean, you know, obviously we all think about, I think most nations think about their symbol and their flag. I think we care more about our flag than some nations do. But I mean, there are also, you know, you think about America, you think, you know, sometimes it's a fancy car, you know, or or the cowboy. Cowboy is the quintessential American. It's not the Revolutionary War soldier, it's the cowboy. Cowboy independent, riding out on the range, whether he's got to fight Indians or the weather or whatever. But that is the Marlboro Man. I mean, that's the symbol. We sold it and marketed it, whether it was John Wayne or, you know, Sam Elliott or whoever. And, you know, that's the way the world sees us, as it's always cowboys versus somebody if we're fighting somebody.
Well, I did the Blue Dawn book. It's about the progressives overthrowing the government, and they've destroyed the Constitution. It's no longer available. And there was an archivist in there who saved the actual original Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the American flag from Mount Suribachi, where the Marines put them up, you know, at the top of that. They saved those 3 artifacts. And the main character at the end of the book, you know, finds those artifacts his father's gotten and saves them and preserves them because they represent who we are. They represent what we stand for. And there's nothing more patriotic than that image of Marines raising a flag.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the flag,
Iconic.
it's them. So to me, those images and icons are incredibly important. And they're part of who everyone in this room,
Except for the Canadians.
Yeah, except for the Canadians. You know, they mean something to them.
Well, I mean, the Canadians might become Americans soon, right? So that's
Just the ones in Alberta.
Smart ones.
the smart one.
The smart ones will, but
I was trying to think of, America's symbolism, how other people see Americans or American culture. I think, well, sometimes you'll hear like the bad side of that, but I think also American culture, when you travel beyond just like to places outside of the United States, beyond elite places, and you just go to like normal people, Americans and American culture really resonate with a lot of people, like just because I think it is so optimistic and has all those qualities that we've been talking about. Like it's very, I've known a lot of people that like traveling to like Africa or other places that America still has a lot of positive attitudes that people associate with America. And I think that that's still true. Yeah.
I think one relic we haven't talked about, but I'll throw it out there, is the gun. And, you know, I argue with people in other countries all the time. They're like, America, you got too many guns, etc. But the gun is quintessentially a part of our iconic being. Doesn't matter what kind of gun it is. Doesn't matter whether you personally want to own one or if you've got a bunker in your basement full of them. That's your choice, and it represents your freedom.
Yeah.
And part of that, I mean, there's a whole internet world of short stories where, you know, the Earth, but it's usually what they mean is Americans, go and, you know, aliens have mistaken, like, oh, we thought the humans were peaceful. You know, and then you start hearing. Then we heard "Fortunate Son" playing, and the next thing we knew, our entire space fleet was destroyed. There, you know, and I know a lot, but this all does play into sort of an American. You know, we think we can beat anybody, and that is, it's not just an American optimism or confidence. It's we don't surrender. We don't want to give up. We are, the living embodiment of the Kobayashi Maru. We don't believe in the no-win scenario, and that's why James T. Kirk was such an iconic, American hero in the show.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So what do you guys find to be the challenges and opportunities of writing real life or seeming real life American heroes like George Washington, et cetera?
Well, how do you get the individualists to cooperate,
That's a great question.
And a lot of times, someone was complaining about space above and beyond, that there's no chain of command, but, they might be tapping into an American genius for self-organization, or these temporary hierarchies that are assumed not because some power-hungry idiot is trying to be the tyrant, but you see hierarchies are extremely useful, and you got somebody who knows how to organize people. Okay, let's put them in charge, and that I think we borrowed from the Roman Republic too. You have the famous example of Cincinnatus. Yes, the ability to self-organize, I think, is critical.
I was going to say, that's also the American military mindset. During the Cold War, our whole plan was to go after the Russian commander tanks in any conflict, whereas we knew that to go back to the non-coms and stuff, we knew that our guys would self-organize if it came down to that, but the Russians were screwed because they were so, they just didn't know how to handle that. That's where that's that American individualism.
Yeah. After one of the tsunamis, people talked about the Japanese citizens just standing, waiting for an official to show up and tell them what to do, and and then compare that with the boats of Katrina, and the official saying no, don't help, and they're saying nonsense. We're Americans. We're gonna go in there and start.
The Cajun Navy.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The Cajun Navy.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is to present a foe that doesn't represent the American ideals, that's American. So in the first book of Tenure, I blow away 15 Antifa guys. But you got to make Antifa, what?
Decent based.
Hey, it was fun.
It's what we call a good start.
That was, yeah. But you have to give an enemy or an opponent to the Americans that makes sense. And it's very hard because a lot of the people that are opposed to the American ideals, opposed to the American values, etc., just don't make sense. They're not logical. They're fed by their emotions and by things that are ideologies that are so foreign that you really have to spend some time and almost explain it to a reader so that you go, okay, I now understand why that guy's a douchebag and needs to die. And it's that way with the Blue Dawn books too. You've got to have an enemy that's worthy of an American. And to do that is hard. So I picked AOC. You're laughing now. If you guys have read the books, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh man.
She's evil. But you have to have an enemy that's worthy of an American hero. And I think that's important. And that's when you were talking about the Iron Man suit, I'm like, who the hell is he blowing up again? I was like, he's got to have an enemy that's worth that.
Yeah.
So I think something you were saying kind of, I think like a lot of times my books have to deal with Americans trying to live up to the American ideal or trying to live what we've been talking about, because you have to make an active choice to embody that and live it out yourself. Like there's a lot of Americans who don't live up to the American ideal or this these things that we've been talking about. And I think that is, a lot of times I think for my characters, it's the internal struggle to be American that I think is, and it's also a tough thing, is you're talking about there is, because I don't know that as we've been, we can dance around it, but it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what that is.
Father.
Yeah.
It's part of it, yeah.
Yeah. Passed down, father to son. Hoorah.
Okay, let's go on to the last question, then we can do audience. How about advice for writers?
Well, this is where I'm going to give some, this sort of journalistic advice. Don't just research. Don't just look at Google. Don't just look at, I looked at a place in Google Maps, go there.
Yeah.
Don't just write about people. So I've started working on a project, and I reached out to some retired Marines, and it ended up sort of snowballing and ended up interviewing more than 50 of them. And I got something out of each and every one of those interviews. I didn't serve. No army on planet, even Ukrainians don't want somebody with my eyesight. But
Don't jump the gun on that. Ukrainians are taking anybody.
but the idea of doing your research, doing what I would call journalism, interviewing people will talk to you, especially veterans. Oh my God. Just set aside the time, ask them questions, and always end with, what didn't I ask you?
Well, my advice is so simple. The job of everybody up here is an entertainer. I'm not a writer. I provide entertainment. That entertainment might be in the form of a comic book. It could be in a novel. Could be any other. Could be a game. Could be anything. But you're an entertainer, so know your audience and understand what they want to see. And some of that is you have to put up a mirror in front of yourself and say, so what do I enjoy? Yeah, I got to tell you, my wife throws a Christmas party every year. I take all the guys to the basement and we watch Die Hard. And
Yeah.
you know why? Because that's something we
'Cause it's a
all
Christmas
agree
movie.
on. It's a Christmas movie. and yeah, it's part of what we do. And the guys are always like, hey, you're going to have Die Hard this year, right? We're doing that again. And it's because, well, I know my audience. And I know what they're going to like. So you have to go, what are the things you like? You're an American. You're a patriot if you're in this room.
Hell yeah.
Okay? So what are the things you like? And then write to that. Write for people that are going to be just like you, and you're going to be a hell of a success.
And he should know, because he is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that I have any better advice than that. I think also, as writing alternate history, we talked a little bit about this back, like how much history do you use? And my feeling about that in the way that I write is that if it's fun, it doesn't matter if it's historical, at least from what I'm trying to write. If I was trying to write actual history, I'd be more concerned about it. But the fact that, so I'm not always all that concerned with, I would rather what is fun, what is easy, or chase that and don't worry too much about sticking to
Hysterical
facts.
over historical.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just an example. I wrote a story set on a Russian ballistic missile submarine, except two alternate history details. This was an Imperial Russian submarine, not a Soviet Russian, and the warheads were not armed with nukes; they were armed with demons. And
what do you drink? Because I would like a bottle of it. Between the Iron Man suit and Ronald Reagan and this, I'm on board, buddy.
That is my blessing and my curse. Yes.
Two small changes.
It's not alternate history to me. It's just history as I'm experiencing. But anyway,
Yeah.
but after I wrote, I did do a lot of research. But as you say, after a chance encounter, and then had lunch with a man who had served as the officer of the watch on an American submarine, and some of the some details that I got embarrassingly wrong on how the chain of command and an XO apparently on an American submarine does not stand watch. That's for the lower tier. The captain and the XO are above that sort of thing. So that was a mistake I made. So yeah, talking to people, I would just echo that piece of advice.
And I also want to congratulate Blaine because he wrote another book during this question.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not telling.
But it's already a bestseller.
Okay, let's see if we can get anything from the audience. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Hey, please come up and just talk on the mic. So
Yeah.
my wireless mic is dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I just wanted to point out, you mentioned Watchmen.
Yeah.
And why we hate it, right?
Yeah.
I still don't like. I don't know why it sold so well. I worked at DC Comics. I still have no idea why it sold well. But it was written by Alan Moore, who is British, and is very much anti-American. So he was poking a finger at our creation. He was turning it on its head and making it look miserable, and that's why we hate it. Americans don't like that book, really. It just. Blah.
Except for Rorschach.
That's what I just
though.
wanted to say that about this.
He
It's
blew
not an
it.
American piece.
Rorschach is the complete exception to that. We all think Rorschach's cool.
Yeah, he is all the integrity, and Alan Moore didn't know what he was doing when he created him. It's fantastic.
He was trying to rip us apart, but it didn't quite always go the way he wanted it to. So, and you should see the manuscript for that. Have you ever seen it? You have no idea? It's huge. I mean, the guy wrote like a novel as he was writing this. And the poor artist, I have no idea how he managed to write, actually draw something from what he did. But he had this meandering style where it was a script, but it was huge. It's about 400 pages.
You talked briefly about the cowboy being a quintessential American hero. How much of American heroism depends on there being a frontier, final or otherwise?
I think, since I'm the one who said that, I think that is important, and I think that's one of the reasons why America has been having problems for the last few decades, because traditionally, and this is not just an American problem, it's a human problem, we've always had some place for the malcontents to go. Someplace where people who wanted to look over the next horizon, there was a next horizon. There's no freaking next horizon unless you go into outer space, and we don't have the individual ability of doing that right now. So I mean, I think that's where we've run smack into it. That's why you see YouTube videos of people doing all sorts of dumb shit, because those are the kind of people who would have gone on a wagon train out west or sailed across the ocean or whatever.
I think some of it is we don't have a national goal for anything right now. When I was being raised, I'm dating myself, but based on the gray hair I see in the room, I'm okay. It was, we're going to get to the moon. And that was a national effort. And there were people that were opposed to it. They were like, we're wasting money, etc. But the entire country was focused on a goal. In 10 years, we are going to do this. And we did it. And God, you cannot imagine how proud we were. For those of you who are younger now, you don't know what you missed, because it was spectacular. And we haven't had a goal since then.
It's Mars. We got to go to Mars.
Mars
Mars is America, people.
I get
Mars
it.
is America.
But, you know, they haven't done a good job of getting everybody behind that and making it a national priority and putting the resources behind it to really make it happen. And until we do that, we're floating.
Because we went to the moon and quit. I don't trust Mars. I don't trust that they'll do anything worth other than get to Mars.
I think Miriam's asking our last question.
Okay. You mentioned kind of like vigilantism kind of being like a part of being an American hero, the kind of needing to get justice yourself type thing. But then it kind of made me think of one of the more recent cases of vigilantism with Luigi Mangione, and I was curious what your take on him is.
That wasn't vigilantism. That was cold-blooded murder. He wasn't fighting for any cause. He had no sense of justice whatsoever. He hadn't been wronged. He hadn't lost anything. He hadn't suffered. He was the product of rich parents. And I look at him and go, that's not someone who deserved, there was no motion for justice there. You know,
I
and
agree with
so
that,
I look at
but-
him and go, he's scum. You know, now, going after him, going after Mangione, I'm all about that. Now, that would be a good story.
Stay tuned for tenure 4, right?
I just finished it. No, but
that's-
you know, you look at them and go, this is a problem and it needs to be fixed. And that's a real problem, is this sense of, I don't like big corporations and who's running them, and I don't like their policies, so I can go walk up and shoot somebody. That's not vigilantism. That's just you being a moron.
Well, and we've seen the left try to co-opt vigilante,
Yeah.
you know, with their protest riots. You know, oh, we're going to besiege a courthouse and try to murder the people in there for 100 days, as they did during the, you know, the Black Lives Matter protests. They know there's something important in it. They're smart enough to identify that. They're not smart enough to understand, by identifying that, what they really want to be is on our side.
Well, and they're trying to remove vigilantism from us. So look at the gentleman who, you know, killed a gentleman on the subway who was acting crazy.
Denny.
So what do? They arrest him. They arrest the hero. That's like the start of a vigilante movie, okay? You know, that guy was the hero of the story. So what did? We put him in jail. We perp walked him. We ruined his life. We called him all sorts of stuff. That guy's going to carry that forever. Look at, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, I'm not saying he was a hero, but he certainly had the right to protect himself. But they've ruined that kid's life forever. Everywhere he goes, this is going to follow him. And it's the same thing with Kenny.
The Japanese have an expression that the left seems to embrace, and I love it, but it's disturbing. The nail that sticks up is hammered down. And that's anybody who tries to stand up for themselves, that's what they try to do.
So I think, and maybe to add in just one thing, so we were talking about what makes an American hero, and I think maybe one of the definitions to think about is it's individualism, but without selfishness.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
That's good.
We agree.
I'm putting a.
So, yeah, this
He's
is-
got another book.
No, that's the title. That's the title of this one. Nice job.